An epic story of corruption, blackmail, vice, and murder set in Los Angeles during the 1950s follows three very different law enforcement officers as they uncover a dense series of criminal conspiracies after a violent mass murder at an all-night cafe. This is the third part of author James Ellroy's masterful LA quartet. This is LA Confidential. Welcome to Crime Novels to Film. I'm Jeffrey A. Cooper. LA Confidential begins in February 1950 with a disgraced former cop named Buzz Meeks, who stole 18 pounds of heroin from a mobster named Mickey Cohen. Meeks is killed at an abandoned motel by the vicious and unscrupulous LAPD Lieutenant Dudley Smith, who takes the heroin for himself. A year later, the real-life drunken assault of unarmed suspects on Christmas Day comes to be known as Bloody Christmas. 3 LAPD officers are caught in the ensuing scandal. The first officer is Ed Exley. A recognized war hero, Ed is the son of a legendary LAPD detective turned construction tycoon named Preston Exley. Ed is squeaky clean. He hates corrupt officers and is ruthlessly ambitious. He thinks nothing of sacrificing others to make his way up the ladder. The second officer is Wendell Bud White. White is a violent and intimidating brute, especially towards wife-beaters, being the son of one himself. White is quick-tempered and volatile, but also goes out of his way to help women, especially bruised and battered women. The third officer is Detective Sergeant Jack Vincennes. Nicknamed Trash Can Jack, Vincennes is a corrupt, flashy, and colorful publicity hound known for his high-profile arrests, and as an LAPD consultant on a Dragnet-like television show called Badge of Honor. Vincennes has a working relationship with a tabloid publisher named Sid Hudgens, trading arrest tips for stories, especially high-visibility stories that raise his public profile. In April of 1953, the brutal killing of several people at an all-night diner called the Night Owl shakes the city, becoming the event that eventually uncovers a massive criminal conspiracy that's at the center of LA Confidential. 3 black men are arrested for the killings, but police can't get them to confess to the Night Owl murders because they were committing an equally vicious crime at the time, the kidnapping and raping of a young Mexican woman. The 3 men escape from custody and are gunned down by Ed Exley, who's proclaimed a hero for his actions. From here, the 3 LAPD officers' careers take very different paths. Ed Exley moves up the command ladder at LAPD, earning a measure of respect in the process. Jack Vincennes is on his way down that same ladder, having been reprimanded and demoted for all the sketchy things he's been involved with, and takes on bigger cases to help restore his sagging reputation. Bud White investigates an unsolved string of prostitute rapes and murders while maintaining a massive grudge against Ed Exley. Each officer becomes involved in their own separate investigations involving drugs, vice, corruption, and murder, investigations that eventually connect back to the killings at the Night Owl. New evidence emerges from a jailed prisoner who can verify the whereabouts of the 3 black men implicated in the Night Owl murders, making their participation in the killings impossible. The claim is publicized and the case is reopened. The 3 officers have to put aside their substantial differences as each one realizes they're uncovering a wide-reaching conspiracy that involves Hollywood icons, gangsters, prostitution, drugs, pornography, kidnapping, extortion, sexual assault, political corruption, racism, and murder. The 3 original suspects to the crime are eventually exonerated of any charges in the Night Owl killings, but in this town, truth doesn't always equate to justice. The 3 officers each have paths to redemption. Some things work out for Ed Exley, Bud White, and Jack Vincennes, and other things not so much. I'd say more about the plot of this book, but that would rob you as a reader. Reading a master like James Ellroy tie up this intricately detailed and complex conspiracy thriller, I was wondering how I'd explain it myself. I was afraid I'd confuse the heck out of you, or more likely, myself. You know what would be great? A 10-part miniseries adaptation. LA Confidential definitely has enough plot for it. If you've read the book, let me know what you think. Would this be a great 10-part series? LA Confidential was a challenging, complex, and very rewarding crime novel. The pace is fast, so you have to keep up with it, but I was never bored. In fact, I read massive chunks of this at a time because it's so easy to get engrossed in Ellroy's dark, brutal vision. The short chapters helped, along with Ellroy's fast, snappy writing style. There are a dizzying amount of characters, plots, subplots, and situations to keep track of, but it's an effort that's well rewarded. Despite the complexity of the conspiracy, everything I read, even when I wasn't sure where it fit into the overall story, came together and made sense by the end. Elroy's characters are so interesting and well developed. These are all flawed individuals, to be sure. They're corrupt, dishonest, and often criminal in their own actions. They foster grudges. They don't get along with each other. They sleep with each other's girlfriends. Whatever strengths they have, they use to bring the other characters down. On the surface, they're not particularly likable. But as the story progresses, it's revealed that these men are just pawns in a much larger system that's far more corrupt and criminal than anything they're investigating, or have done themselves for that matter. They are fascinating characters, who were all at a place of honor and integrity in their lives. Although flawed, they all seek redemption, no matter what it might cost them, and I was emotionally involved with each of the characters by the end. This is not always an easy novel to read. There are shocking, brutal acts of violence and unspeakable crimes that take place against women, minorities, and children. But nothing about it is exploitative. Everything is done to serve the story. This is supposed to make you uncomfortable. If it doesn't make you uncomfortable, you might want to look into that. Warner Brothers acquired the rights to LA Confidential in 1990. Co-screenwriter Brian Helgeland, once he heard that Warner's had acquired the novel, lobbied to write the screenplay, but the studio was only talking to well-known screenwriters at the time. When he found out that Curtis Hanson had been hired to direct LA Confidential, he met with the filmmaker on the set of his movie The River Wild. They shared a love for Elroy's fiction, and more important, a shared vision and belief in the project. Hanson and Helgeland worked on the script for 2 years. The screenplay went through 7 different drafts before Hanson felt confident enough to show the script to James Ellroy. During that time, Hanson turned down several directing jobs, while Helgeland banged out those 7 different drafts of the screenplay for free. The film adaptation of LA Confidential went into production in May of 1996. LA Confidential debuted at the Cannes Film Festival on May 14, 1997, prior to its release in the United States on September 19, 1997. Critics universally praised the film, with many calling LA Confidential an instant classic right out of the gate. The film's dense screenplay was highly praised, as was cinematographer Dante Spinotti's use of natural lighting, Jerry Goldsmith's Oscar-nominated score, the 45 period-specific locations found by location manager John Panzarella around Los Angeles, while production designer Janine Opperwall was praised for her attention to period detail with her own Oscar nomination. LA Confidential did very well at awards season that year. The film was nominated for 9 Academy Awards in 1998 and came away with 2. Kim Basinger for Best Supporting Actress, and screenwriters Brian Helgeland and Curtis Hanson for Best Adapted Screenplay. The film also took home 2 BAFTA Awards for Best Sound and Best Editing out of 12 nominations. In 2015, LA Confidential was added to the National Film Registry by the National Film Preservation Board, which recognizes movies deemed culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant and of enduring importance to American culture. The producers got their money's worth with casting director Mally Finn. LA Confidential has 80 speaking roles. And what a great cast it is. Kim Basinger hadn't been in a movie for over 3 years. Kevin Spacey's performance was praised by author James Ellroy, some of the best self-loathing I've ever seen on screen. Guy Pearce, who played Ed Exley, and Russell Crowe, who played Bud White, were largely unknown in the United States at the time. They're ideally cast in the roles of Bud White and Ed Exley, and both turn in powerful performances. Kevin Spacey has gotten more publicity for his off-screen life these days, but this is one of those roles that shows what a really terrific actor he is on screen. James Cromwell and David Strathairn are 2 of the finest character actors working today, and it's a movie like this that shows why. And for my money, Danny DeVito is a national treasure. The screenwriters did a masterful job of combining and condensing elements while preserving the essential feel of the book, and smartly kept the focus on its 3 flawed main characters. The character arc of Inez Soto was almost entirely eliminated. 2 important characters from the book were also taken out, including Preston Exley, the father of Ed Exley, and Raymond Dieterling, the fictional stand-in for a legendary early animator. Along with axing Raymond, they also eliminated the subplot about the Atherton killings. These characters and subplots were by no means filler, so if you had to eliminate something, you could eliminate these without disrupting the narrative flow. This was a tough one, because both are amazing pieces of work. But because of the amazing effort it took to tell this story in 2.5 hours, this week I have to give it to the film. This week's winner, The Film. What do you think? Did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? What did I miss? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for hanging out with me, gang. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you watching. I'll be back on the next edition of Crime Novels to Film.